And our essential question says, what is the role of each organ in the respiratory system? So over the past couple of days, we've talked about what the job of the respiratory system is. We know that we breathe in oxygen so that cellular respiration can occur. Today, we'll talk about the different parts that make this happen. So you'll hear me mention several different organs, but there are 5 main ones that I want you to remember. So I want you to focus on the pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and lungs. So let's start with the upper respiratory system with the pharynx and larynx. After air passes through the nasal cavity, it enters a tube-like passageway called the pharynx. So we know that when you breathe, you inhale through your nostrils on the front of your nose, and then from your nostrils, just beyond it, you have your nasal cavity. After air passes through your nasal cavity, it enters that first tube called the pharynx. At the bottom of the pharynx, there is a flap of tissue called the epiglottis. And basically what it does is when you swallow food or when you drink a liquid, your epiglottis folds over, it closes so that that food and drink does not enter your airway. So it has a really important job. Then the air will enter your larynx. This is the airway to which your vocal cords are attached. So your vocal cords are horizontal folds of tissue that vibrate when air passes between them. So this is what allows you to speak and to sing. So your pharynx and your larynx, they both have very important jobs. All right, then we have your trachea. From the larynx, air moves into the trachea, which is a long tube of cartilage rings that is lined with mucous membranes and cilia. Okay, so your larynx is about 12 centimeters long. It's made out of cartilage because it needs to be strong and sturdy so it doesn't collapse because you need it to breathe, right? It's lined with mucous membranes and cilia. Cilia are kind of like teeny tiny hair-like structures that kind of push things along. And between your cilia and your mucous membranes, they help to trap any dust or bacteria or pollen, any particles that we don't want to get into your lungs, because if something like that were to get into your lungs, it could cause a lot of harm. So your trachea is very protective. All right, now your lower respiratory system, you have the bronchi and your lungs. Your bronchi are 2 short tubes that carry air into your lungs. So when we say bronchi, that word is plural. If we're referring to the singular form, it would be bronchus. So you have 2 of them. So your bronchi, they branch out once they're inside of your lungs. They split into smaller and smaller and smaller tubes called bronchioles. And then at the end of your bronchioles, there are these tiny little, like they kind of look like grapes. They have a very thin membrane around them, and they're filled with air. They're called alveoli. So your alveoli are surrounded by capillaries. Capillaries are very small little blood vessels. And because your alveoli are surrounded by capillaries, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide is able to happen because inside of the alveoli, you have oxygen, right? Because that's where the air that we just breathed in went. In your blood vessels, in your capillaries, you have carbon dioxide that we don't need anymore. So they kind of make a trade. So basically what happens is the oxygen in your alveoli is traded with the carbon dioxide in your capillaries. So that way we can exhale the carbon dioxide that we don't need, and our body just received oxygen that it does need to carry out cellular respiration. So that's it for today. Go to Google Classroom, answer your question of the day.